In my past life, I disguised myself as a man to don armor and fight battles in my brother's stead, while he reaped all the glory and became a renowned general. This life, we were both reborn. I had just been born. My brother, who I remembered as a gentle man as warm as jade, had bribed the midwife. His voice cold as ice. Throw her into the mass grave to feed the wolves. Go back and tell the head of the family that the second young lady was stillborn. Then he stared at my tiny face swaddled in cloth with a sinister glint in his eyes. You deserve to die the most. How dare you kill Gigi? The mass grave was shrouded in ink-black night, a bone-chilling wind cutting through the air. A foul stench of rotting corpses and fresh blood assaulted the nostrils, sickening to the core. My brother's voice, filled with unbridled hatred, echoed in my ears. Rui, you are utterly damned. You killed Gigi, you must pay with your life. Despair settled heavy in my heart. I knew my brother had been reborn too, trapped in this living hell. I gazed up at the pitch-black sky, my chest burning with bitter resentment. In my past life, I fought my way through a sea of blood, disguised as a man, charging into battle after battle. I seized countless military merits for my brother, eliminated every hidden arrow and enemy that threatened him, and guarded his peace for a lifetime. Now, reborn, he hated me to the bone because of a fake daughter of the family, longing for nothing more than my death. I opened my eyes indifferently, my heart cold as stone. This life, I was reborn too. Tang Ji, the fake young lady my brother had taken in later in life. In my past life, she was an unknown beggar girl who clung to my brother's legs on a snowy day and refused to let go. Her blood-red eyes had captured his heart with effortless ease. She was brought back to the Tang family, raised in luxury, and became the third young lady of the Tangs. For more than a decade, she wove her lies and put on her act, until she finally got her wish, and won a sliver of his pity. She had framed me countless times on a daily basis, and I had never paid it any mind, but she crossed the line. She dared to covet my brother. She had intended to drug him and climb into his bed, only for me to discover her plot. I had her tied up and thrown outside to fend for herself, yet a drunken stable hand had found her. And a night of debauchery ensued. After that, unable to bear the humiliation, she hanged herself. That day, my brother was consumed by agony. He grabbed me by the throat and demanded an answer. Why did you harm the woman I love? I lifted my eyes with great difficulty, my voice cold. She has always borne a grudge against the Tang family. She approached you only to take revenge. My brother's eyes turned bloodshot. He kicked me violently to the ground and roared, "What do you know?" Nothing at all. Gigi was willing to let go of her hatred for me. It's you killed her. From that day on, for years, my brother and I were strangers, until the day he marched to conquer the Western Liang as a general. Father ordered me to protect him in secret. On the battlefield, I took a fatal arrow for him, the arrow piercing straight through my chest. In the depths of excruciating pain, I reached out to grasp him, thousands of words lingering on my lips, only to fade into a single cry. "Brother," but he stepped back, his eyes filled with unbridled hatred. As I fell to the ground, he laughed maniacally, his eyes blood-red. "Tang Rui, you should have died long ago. You should have paid for Gigi's life a long time ago." The night was pitch black, the howl of wolves in the distance sending chills down the spine. I dared not make a sound, scanning my surroundings warily. Trapped in an infant's body, I could not run, could not hide. If the wolves pounced, I would meet my end. In the blink of an eye, the heavy breath of a beast drew near. Several wild wolves stepped over the piles of bones, ghostly green light flickering in their eyes, their howls shaking the heavens. They tensed, ready to pounce. My heart turned to ash. At that very moment, a sharp arrow cut through the air. 1 arrow, 2 arrows, 4 arrows. Clean and decisive, the 4 vicious wolves fell to the ground, convulsing. Beneath the moonlight, a young boy in red stood amidst the sea of corpses. Tilting his head and raising an eyebrow, a golden bow still in his hand, held high, a malicious smile tugged at the corner of his lips. Behind him, a young eunuch of about 10 years old trembled so hard his legs threatened to give way, his voice cracking with fear. "His Highness, what do we do with the wolves?" The young boy leaped down from the pile of corpses, clasped his hands behind his back and chuckled, his tone casual. Skin them. My whole body stiffened. A violent shiver racking my frame. The wolves were not yet dead, whimpering in agony. This young prince in red was no more than 5 or 6 years old, an age as innocent as a child's doll, yet he spoke of skinning animals as casually as breathing, a childish face paired with such cold cruelty. It was utterly terrifying. I pondered silently, wondering which prince this could be. In the 8th year of Xianxia, the court had always valued literature over martial arts. Few among the imperial heirs were skilled in archery and horseback riding. The young eunuch's legs turned to jelly, too frightened to step forward. The young prince then drew a short dagger from his boot and tossed it to him at random. Skin them, hurry. With that, he hopped over to me. My heart tightened, and I immediately closed my eyes and played dead. A living child. Cold fingers tapped my cheek, scaring me into opening my eyes abruptly. I stared straight into a pair of pitch-black, bright eyes, sharp and wild like a young wolf's. Warm. She's alive. He stared at me for a few seconds, then a bright, evil smile curled at his lips. Be my sister, will you? 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. If you don't answer, I'll skin you with them. Me. As soon as the young prince's words left his mouth, the young eunuch scrambled to my side in a panic, stammering an explanation. Your Highness, she can't even speak yet. I blinked, looking up at him. The young prince's lips split into a reckless grin. I know, I'm just teasing her. This little one's got guts. She didn't cry. I like her. The young eunuch wiped the sweat from his brow, muttering to himself, or maybe she's just too young to understand you're threatening her. The young prince's ear twitched, ignoring him. He pointed a finger at the wolf still convulsing on the ground. What's taking so long? The young eunuch's legs buckled at once. He dropped to his knees with a thud and kowtowed frantically. Spare me, Your Highness, I don't know how to skin animals. Please spare me. Oh, the young prince took the dagger back, his tone eerily calm. You're really stupid. Then, watch carefully, learn. He squatted down calmly, his movements clean and precise, and in a few quick strokes, skinned one wolf completely bare. He picked up a freshly skinned wolf pelt from the ground at random, still dripping with blood, and tossed it to the eunuch. Wrap her in this. Take her back to the palace. The young eunuch's hands and feet shook violently, as he wrapped the blood-soaked wolf pelt around me, complaining under his breath, what kind of fate is this? Everyone else gets promoted to the imperial household department, and I end up with this crazy crown prince. Heaven above, just take me now. My eyelid twitched hard. Crown Prince, Xianxia, the crown prince of the 8th year of Xianxia, the tyrant Mingji 12 years later. Xianxia had reigned for no more than a month before he was forced to abdicate for his tyranny and cruelty, and finally killed by the Empress Dowager with a single sword strike to the throat, breathing his last on the spot. I had still been in the army at the border when he died. When I returned to the capital, a new emperor had ascended the throne. The Empress Dowager ruled in his stead, and peace reigned over the land. My heart sank straight down. Against all odds, I had survived, only to be unlucky enough to fall into the hands of this future tyrant. That night, the cold wind cut to the bone, and I had been so badly frightened at the mass grave that I fell gravely ill. Xianxia sent for a physician, and by some miracle, I clung to life once more. After that, I was left weak and listless. So Crown Prince Xianxia had no choice but to place me in an ancient temple outside the city. He came to visit me in person every month, bringing medicine and food. He was nothing like the rumors painted him: debauched, violent, and cruel. He took care of me in every detail, even inviting master warriors and scholars to teach me the art of war, literature, and martial arts to strengthen my body. As he combed my hair, he would say, you, in a troubled world, the more you learn, the better you can protect yourself. I practiced diligently, secretly regaining the combat strength I had in my past life. In both lives, I was decisive in killing and fighting, able to slay a top martial artist with a single strike within 10 zhong. Every time he came to see me, he would measure my height, his tone gentle. Little Yua, you've grown taller again. In a little while, you'll be as tall as your brother. 15 years passed. A high monk from the mountain sent a messenger down to deliver a letter. saying I had fully recovered. Xueshao sent a reply, "This prince will come to fetch her in person." At 20, Xueshao stood tall and straight, his features unparalleled in beauty. Though he had the bearing of a man of noble character and pure heart, he favored wearing bright red from head to toe, a golden fan in his hand, bold and unbridled. The people in the streets all said this crown prince had a surly temper and unfathomable thoughts, and though young, his hands were stained with blood and cruelty. The right faction led by the prime minister once presented him with a horde of beautiful concubines, yet overnight, all the beauties died a violent death, their corpses burned to ashes, and the gates of the mansions of those who had presented them were splattered with black dog's blood, with words written in bright red blood, "Return my life." All those involved dared not leave their homes for a full 7 days before venturing onto the streets again. The crown prince's battle made him famous, striking fear into the hearts of all who heard his name. But to me, Crown Prince Xueshao was my savior, my brother, the young eunuch who had trembled so hard all those years ago. Jerome, still followed by his side, when he saw me, he bowed respectfully and said, "Welcome back to the mansion, Princess Yu." Xueshao had given me a new name, Xueyu. My eyes curved into crescent moons. The black prayer beads twined around Xueshao's fingers coiled and uncoiled, at the sight of me. He opened his arms and smiled recklessly. "Little Yua, come here." In the carriage on the way back to the capital, Xueshao reclined on a soft couch, looking at me, his tone lazy. "Little Yua, after returning to the capital, is there anything you want to do?" I pushed aside the curtain and gazed at the winding mountain road, smiling brightly like an innocent young girl. "Of course there is. I want to eat all the delicious food in the capital with Crown Prince brother, listen to operas, watch dances, ride horses, drink wine." Xueshao raised his sleeve and tapped my forehead lightly with one finger. "Such a young thing, and already thinking about drinking wine." I covered my forehead, feigning grievance. "It hurts. Crown Prince brother, you're an adult, yet you still bully a child." Xueshao burst into loud laughter. I turned my head, rubbing my fair, tender forehead, while my eyes turned ice-cold in an instant. 15 years had passed. The Tang family must have taken in that fake young lady long ago. Counting the days, Tang Ji would make her move at my brother Tang Mu's birthday feast in half a year. This time, the rise and fall of the Tang family would rest entirely on my brother's whim, and I would only watch from the sidelines. The unassuming carriage traveled all the way into the capital, a city still bustling with prosperity and noise, sugar figure peddlers, steamed bun shops, tea stalls by the street, crowds swarmed everywhere. Suddenly, a familiar silver bell-like voice rang out, "Brother Mu, I want this, and that too." It was Tang Ji. I pushed open the carriage window. Tang Ji, dressed in a pink silk skirt, was clinging to Tang Mu's arm and acting coquettishly. Tang Mu wore a black brocade robe, a soft smile on his brows and eyes. Yet a bandage was wrapped around his left arm, injured. Xueshao caught sight of my intense gaze and smiled. "Tang Mu, the eldest young master of the Tang family. If you have taken a fancy to him, Crown Prince brother, you're teasing me again." I shook my head, blinking and feigning curiosity. "They look extraordinary in their clothes and bearing. I just wonder how he got that injury." Xueshao picked up a grape and bit into it expressionlessly. "The eldest young master of the Tang family fought with Chu Zhenhong, the young master of the escort bureau, for his sister." My eyes lit up, and then, he was utterly defeated. The whole city knows it. I curled my lip, feigning innocence. I thought he was a skilled martial artist, but he's just a pathetic mess. I even wanted to spar with him, yet deep in my heart, I silently mulled over that name. Chu Zhenhong, the young master of Nanfeng Escort Bureau. Their business spread all over Fengju. Even the prime minister's mansion gave his father a modicum of face. Tang Mu was truly bold. For Tang Ji, he dared to throw his life away at someone's feet. Of course he was. This was Tang Ji, the woman he had spared no effort to keep, even at the cost of murdering his own sister. Noticing the shift in my expression, Xueshao leaned in to ask, "Little Yua, why so interested in the Tang family today?" My heart skipped a beat, my cheeks flushing red in an instant as I pushed him away. "I don't care if he's Tang or Li, my hands are just itchy." I want to find someone to practice with. Crown Prince brother, stop scaring me all the time, okay? Xue Xiao threw his head back and laughed, popping another grape into his mouth. For a spar, I'm available too. How about I be your opponent? I looked up at him and smiled softly. If Crown Prince brother is willing to accompany me, that would be wonderful indeed. My gaze drifted out the window unconsciously, the smile still on my face. And locked eyes with Tang Mu outside the carriage. In that split second, I saw his pupils contract sharply, his eyes filled with horror as they met mine. My expression remained unchanged. I curved my lips into a silent cold smile. Tang Mu froze on the spot. Behind him, Tang Ji followed his gaze, her brows furrowing slightly as she tugged his hand and acted coquettishly. Brother, what's wrong with you? Nothing. I must have misseen something. Tang Mu's face was pale as he stared at the departing carriage, forcing his chaotic thoughts away. On the third day of the third lunar month, the Flower God Festival, the Crown Prince held a feast in his mansion. The Tang family received the invitation and came with their children specially. Tang Ji was dressed to the nines, and the madam of the Tang family held her hand, secretly introducing her to the young masters of various noble clans. Unfortunately, Tang Ji's beautiful eyes only lingered on Tang Mu. A single glance between them, and both their cheeks flushed red. The madams left first to take their seats in the front hall. I preferred plain clothes, not silk and satin. I smiled faintly and went to greet the young ladies of noble families. My maid Xinga said gently, "Please follow me to cleanse your hands, ladies." I stood in the corridor, wearing a veil, and made a gesture. "After you." A wind blew through the long corridor, lifting half my veil. Someone at the men's table spotted me first. And whispers immediately broke out. "Which family's young lady is that? She's breathtaking even with only half her face showing. From her attire, she's clearly not favored, probably a concubine's daughter from some clan." I paid no heed, my gaze still lowered slightly, yet out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of Tang Mu not far away. His pupils constricted sharply, his eyes filled with the terror of someone who had seen a ghost. Tang Ji followed his gaze instinctively, a cold glint flashing across her eyes in an instant. The noble young ladies filed forward one by one. When it was Tang Ji's turn to pass by me, her body tilted slightly, her white gauze fluttering, and the next second, a weight pressed down on my shoulder. A sharp tearing sound rang out. She had ripped my skirt open forcefully. She fell to the ground even faster than I could react, her soft voice trembling with tears. "Oh no, my foot." Several noble young ladies beside her swarmed forward at once, supporting her and speaking first to lay blame. "What insolent maid dares to bump into the young lady of the Duke of Zhen's mansion? Do you have the guts of a bear and the courage of a leopard?" I stood quietly in place, my cold gaze falling on Tang Ji's deathly pale fingers. Her clumsy pretense was laughably obvious. The exclamations from the male guests earlier had already left these noble young ladies seething with jealousy. Their accusation of me now was not for the Tang family's sake. They merely wanted to vent their petty anger. Xinga was furious and tried to speak up for me. "This young lady is..." I raised my hand to stop her, my voice light. "You step back first." Then I lifted my eyes and smiled. "I'd like to ask, who actually saw me do it? Those who sully my innocence for no reason never live long. It's a rule." Tang Ji's face paled at a visible speed, and she let out another exaggerated cry of pain. She had complained of an ankle ache a moment ago, and now she claimed her entire leg felt broken. Standing at the very front was Wen Shuhua, the young lady of the Marquis's mansion. She had always been arrogant, relying on her family's wealth, and colluded with Tang Ji, their schemes more despicable than one another's. Her expression faltered slightly as she shouted sharply, "You lowly slave, sharp-tongued and insolent. I'll have your tongue cut out right now." Zhichuan, another maid of the Crown Prince's mansion, heard this and hurried over to kneel. "You mustn't, young lady. This is our Crown Prince's, his concubine." When Shuhua cut her off, her eyes cold, "Use your brain when you lie. Who in the world doesn't know our Crown Prince keeps no women by his side? There's never been a woman in the Crown Prince's mansion. Whoever dares to stop me will be dragged out and beaten to death with a stick. Men, cut out her tongue. I'll take full responsibility for whatever happens." I clapped my hands and laughed. Sister, are you really capable of taking that responsibility? Zhichuan, who dared not offend anyone, kowtowed frantically on the ground in fear. When Shuhua's anger flared up, her palm raised high, ready to slap me as a public demonstration of her power, I did not bother to lift my eyes, only raising my left hand gently. With merely 30% of my strength, I pinned her hand in mid-air, immovable. In the next instant, my right hand moved like the wind. Slapping her cheeks left and right, a string of clear slaps rang out, faster than the beat of a drum. You lowly maid, let go of me, it hurts, it's killing me, you bitch, how dare you, it hurts, ah, it hurts, ancestor, hero, please spare me, she cursed incoherently, her pleas for mercy utterly pathetic. The entire ordeal lasted no more than a moment. I let go, when Shuhua, as if her soul had been sucked out, collapsed onto the ground. The arrogant young lady of the Marquis's mansion just now had a face as swollen as a pig's head, weeping piteously. A collective gasp escaped the noble young ladies and guests around, their eyes filled with shock. No one had expected that a seemingly delicate maid could beat the young lady of the Wen family like this on the spot. While when Shuhua was in a daze, I turned to Tang Ji, who was sitting on the ground. Miss of the Duke of Zhen's mansion, this young lady stood up for you. Yet you've distanced yourself from the mess completely. Tang Ji's eyes were filled with tears. What nonsense are you talking about? I spoke coldly. You tripped on purpose, or I tripped you. The two of us know the truth perfectly well. However, I dusted off my sleeves and stepped forward, and the noble young ladies, holding hands, stepped back in fright. Since everyone thinks you got hurt because of me, I can't let myself be wronged for nothing. Ah, in the next second, I slammed my foot down hard on Tang Ji's ankle, twisting it with a clever force that made her eyes water from pain. Tang Ji gasped sharply. You, she saw the person behind me and suddenly screamed, "Brother, you have to avenge me, brother." This maid broke my leg, looking for death. At the sound of her scream, everyone turned to see Tang Mu, his face ashen, striding toward me. He lowered his eyes and stood before me. Don't you think you owe the Tang family an explanation? The noble young ladies whispered among themselves. Tang Mu dotes on his sister the most. This maid is in for a terrible fate today. She's a ruthless one too, I'll say that. I listened to their chatter and smiled. What explanation? At the sight of Tang Mu, Tang Ji's tears fell like broken beads. Her eyes filled with tears as she said weakly, "Brother, Gigi is in so much pain." Tang Mu squatted down in distress to comfort her. "I've already sent for the imperial physician." He stood up again, his expression cold and sinister. "I don't care who you are, hurting Gigi means death. Speak. Why did you intentionally cripple Gigi?" The noble young ladies trembled again. "It seems the rumors are true. Tang Mu goes crazy whenever something happens to Tang Ji. This is the crown prince's feast, and he dares to spill blood here for Tang Ji. This is a great disrespect." Tang Mu sneered. "Apologize, and I'll spare your life. Choose for yourself, keep an arm, or a leg." Tang Mu still thought, just like in my past life, I would let him misunderstand and hurt me, never resisting at all. My hand hidden beneath my sleeve clenched and unclenched. Then I smiled. The one who should apologize is Miss Tang. She tore my skirt on purpose, so she must compensate me. I stepped on her foot, and we're even, but she's the one who slandered me, making people wrong me for no reason. Tell me, doesn't she owe me an apology? Calculating the time, Crown Prince brother should be here any moment now. Stubborn to the end, Tang Mu flew into a rage and raised his hand. Several noble young ladies on good terms with the Tang family stepped forward and restrained me by force. "Then prepare to die." Tang Mu sent for a long sword, immediately after. When Shuhua regained her senses, walked up to me with her swollen face, and tore off my veil, she froze for a moment, then raised her hand and slapped me hard across the face. Such a seductive vixen. Men, cut out her tongue first, then disfigure her face. A sudden wind blew at the garden gate, scattering the buzz of discussion in the courtyard. "Mother, is this Yua?" Xue Xiao's steps faltered, his eyes darkening sharply. He had just gone to fetch the empress, and looked up to see this farce. At the end of the corridor, I was held captive by two people. my cheek red and swollen. Xuexiao's face turned livid. He strode down the corridor, not yet having a chance to speak, when someone dared to court death. When Shuhua straightened her neck, smiled lightly, and curtsied, "Crown Prince Highness, this lowly maid pretended to be your concubine, so I taught her a small lesson. Please do not blame me." Her words died on her lips. "Get lost." Xuexiao merely raised his hand coldly, and the powerful gust of wind from his sleeve sent when Shuhua flying backward like a broken kite. The entire courtyard fell deathly silent. Xuexiao's eyes were as dark as an abyss as he strode over. The several noble young ladies restraining me met his gaze for a single second and trembled so hard they let go. I curved my lips into a silent smile. In the next instant, I was pulled tightly into his arms. Who dared to lay a hand on her? His voice was deep and cold, filled with destructive danger. Everyone held their breath. I clung weakly to his sleeve, hiding in his arms and sobbing softly. "Crown Prince brother, they all bullied Yua. Yua hurts so much." The noble young ladies, what is the meaning of this? The Empress arrived at the sound, her face dark with anger. "Your Majesty the Empress." Everyone bowed in greeting. The Empress's gaze fell on Xuexiao's arms, then shifted to me. In her eyes, shock, surprise, and in an instant, calm again. "Shower, this is Yua." Xuexiao helped me to my feet, and I bowed my head in salute. "Greetings, Your Majesty the Empress." The Empress smiled. "She looks just like her, truly just like her. Come, stand by my side." In my past life, I had attended countless palace banquets, never once having the honor of gaining the Empress's favor. The closest I had ever been to her was passing by her palanquin in the imperial garden. Xuexiao gestured for me to go forward. The Empress took my hand, her tone warm and intimate. "Who bullied you? Tell mother." This Empress was quite amusing, claiming me as her daughter the moment she saw me. I did not hesitate, laughing aloud. "Everyone," a light, careless sentence, and everyone present fell to their knees in terror. When Shuhua knelt, Tangji knelt. Tang Mu froze for a few seconds, then scrambled to his knees. I held the Empress's jade-like hand, borrowing her authority, my eyes bright. They did not know my identity, so they slighted me. "But mother, I do not wish to hold it against them. An apology will suffice. After all, today is the Flower God Festival, and business comes first." At the sound of my mother, Tang Mu kowtowed repeatedly in fear. "We did not know she was the princess. We beg Your Majesty the Empress to punish us." The Empress looked at me with kind eyes. You are still so kind-hearted. Very well, I will do as you say. If the princess says to let it go, then it is let go." She lowered her gaze to those kneeling, her voice displeased. "Is that the Wen girl kneeling there? What happened to your face?" When Shuhua kowtowed frantically on the spot, "It was the servant girl's clumsiness. I fell. My face is injured and I have frightened Your Majesty. Please forgive me." Then, the noble young ladies, along with Tang Mu, bowed to me in unison and apologized. "Your Highness the Princess, please forgive us." I waved my hand. "It is nothing." The Empress held my hand, reluctant to let go. "Wait a minute. My sister says to let you off, but I have not agreed." Zhichuan stood respectfully behind Xuexiao, silent. Surely, she had told him the whole story. Xuexiao tore his gaze away from me, slowly lifted his eyes, and pointed at Wen Shuhua. "Earlier, was it you who shouted about cutting out Yua's tongue?" When Shuhua stumbled back in fear, her calves trembling violently, she opened her mouth to defend herself. In the next instant, no one saw his movement clearly. Only Xuexiao's fingertips touching 2 points on the side of her neck. When Shuhua's throat tightened, and half her tongue lolled out uncontrollably, a cold glint of the short dagger flashed, swift and clean as cutting a flower petal. A crisp sound as the tongue fell. Blood splattered her skirt. Silence, deathly silence. When Shuhua's tongue was cut off, only I in the entire courtyard saw it clearly. In that brief moment, Xuexiao's figure moved like a ghost, in the eyes of everyone else. Only blood and terror remained. He calmly wiped his fingertips with a white handkerchief, dragged her down, sent her back to the Marquis's mansion. After speaking, as if suddenly remembering something, he swept his gaze across the crowd. Anyone else? Tangji. Tangji was already scared out of her wits, her forehead bright red from kowtowing on the ground. Tang Mu threw himself in front of her, barely keeping his wits about him. "Your Highness the Crown Prince, I beg to take my sister's punishment in her stead." I shot Xianxia a look. The Empress had never approved of the Crown Prince's tyranny and killings. He should not displease her in public for my sake. Xianxia said coldly, "I somewhat admire your love for your sister. I will spare you this once." When the Empress looked at Xianxia, her face was terrifyingly dark. The atmosphere of the entire feast plummeted to freezing point. After that day, the young lady of the Wen family was carried back to her mansion, her voice forever lost. The young lady of the Tang family was forced to return home, daring not show her face in public ever again. As for Tang Mu, he drank alone at the feast, as miserable as a stray dog. Those snobbish dandies snickered at each other. Offended the Crown Prince, insulted the princess. Master Tang won't live long. In my past life, I had taken Tang Mu's name, won the title of general for him, fought battles in his stead. Now, he was willing to stay in the mansion, protecting Tang Ji for a lifetime of peace. The Tang family had declined in his generation. Tang Mu, with no merits or fame to his name, was in the eyes of others nothing more than a dandy hiding behind the old Duke of Zhen's reputation. The feast dispersed. After applying medicine to my wounds, I carried a jar of strong wine and drank alone in the pavilion. The spicy liquid burned my throat, sending a restlessness through my whole body. The brothers who had fought with me through life and death back then, though not blood relatives, they were the kind of people I could truly trust with my back. Now, in the capital, there was no one I could trust anymore. I should have known better. In this world, no one is kind to you for no reason. Xianxia had saved me only because I had eyes similar to his sisters, Princess Xueyu, daughter of the noble consort. She had been born on the same day, month, and year as Xianxia, yet drowned at the age of 4. This had been a royal secret. That day, Xueyu had fallen into the water trying to save Xianxia. Shortly after, the noble consort had hanged herself too. The noble consort and the Empress were sisters. The Song family had 2 beautiful daughters, both favored by the emperor. The bond between the noble consort and the Empress had been deep. Xianxia had always known he was guilty of a great mistake, until, 15 years ago, when he found me in the mass grave. "Yua, did I scare you today?" The night wind stirred the candle flames. He stood in the corridor with a wine pot in his hand, a faint, unnoticeable timidity in his brows and eyes. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine, Crown Prince brother." I smiled naturally, but my fingertips trembled slightly in my sleeve. Perhaps the reason he had saved me was nothing more than the Empress's overwhelming longing for her late sister's child. Xianxia held out his hand to me. I stepped back half a step instinctively. "Yua." He froze, a flash of hurt in his eyes for a moment. After a while, he whispered, "Do you blame me for keeping something from you?" A soft sigh drifted into the night. "When I saved you, it was not because you looked like my sister, nor was it to please mother. It was because in those eyes of yours, I saw a desperate will to live. Perhaps it was my illusion. You had just been born, what could you possibly understand about longing? But all these years, I have truly cared for you. You have been weak since childhood, several times on the brink of death from illness. I could only invite the ghost physician to heal you. He is skilled in curing diseases with poison. Even I could barely bear the bone-eating pain. Your will to survive far exceeded my imagination." Beneath the moonlight, his brows and eyes were soft and deep. "You were so small, so very small, yet you never cried or fussed during the treatments." I fell silent. In my past life, the poison that seared my bones and blood in the nights, the deathly calamities I gritted my teeth through, the scars all over my body, I had survived them all. Scraping the poison from the bones, fighting poison with poison, none of it had ever been the most painful. It was all in the past. The clearest memory in my mind was Xianxia's anxiety and helplessness as he sat by my bed during those fevers in my childhood, was him feeding me medicine spoon by spoon, coaxing me softly, "Good Yua, endure it." After drinking the bitter medicine, "Brother will get you candied fruit." The ghost physician's poison, those wounds, they did not hurt at all, yet for some reason, my heart ached terribly. If Xianxia had a moment of tenderness, it was for me. Xianxia reached out and ruffled the top of my hair. This is the first time I have seen a woman with such great fortitude. I am also curious what this stubborn little sick cat will grow up to be. My throat tightened, and I could not utter a single word of estrangement anymore. He lowered his hand, his voice gentle. I said I would protect you for a lifetime. Now that you have grown up safe and sound, I am very happy. The night was silent, my eyes reddened, and I spoke softly. I am very happy too, Crown Prince brother. The person I met in the mass grave that day, it was you. A month later, it was Tang Mu's birthday. The Tang family held a feast at their mansion in his honor, inviting the Crown Prince to join in the celebration. Xiao knew I loved lively occasions, so he took me with him to the feast. That day, Tang Mu was in high spirits. For the Crown Prince's sake, the young masters of the various clans treated him with respect. As the wine flowed, Tang Mu slurred that his head was dizzy. Next time I will drink with you again, Brother Li. Tang Mu was led back to his room by his servants. Before long, a woman's scream rang out from the room. Xiao and I exchanged a glance, lifting our skirts and hurrying over. Just like in my past life, Tangji had drugged his wine. Everyone gathered at the door. I pulled Xiao forward to peek inside. Tangji was trembling all over, wrapped in a quilt, a large expanse of her fragrant shoulder visible. Tang Mu knelt on the ground, his upper body completely bare. He had just been doused with a bucket of cold water, shaking violently from head to toe. Xiao immediately covered my eyes. I pried his hand away desperately. He blocked my view firmly again. Xiao wrapped an arm around my waist from behind, bent down, and chuckled softly in my ear. Little Yua, do not look at what you ought not. My scalp tingled, my whole body stiffening, daring not move an inch. Madame Tang shouted sharply, what a disgrace. What an utter disgrace. Xiao twirled his golden fan and laughed. Madam of the Duke of Zhen's mansion, what is the meaning of this, brother and sister? This, your highness. Madame Tang's hair stood on end in an instant. Falling to her knees in panic, your highness, please see clearly. Tangji is not my son's blood sister, she is an orphan girl my son picked up and brought home. Tangji wrapped herself in the quilt, kowtowing on the bed. Your highness, Brother Mu and I love each other sincerely. I am willing to marry Brother Mu as his wife. Tang Mu also kowtowed repeatedly. Please grant us your blessing, your highness. I am willing to marry Gigi. Xiao stroked his chin, deep in thought. He held me in his arms, and I pinched the back of his hand secretly. Xiao nodded at once. It is settled. Tang Mu and Tang Ji are a perfect match. They shall be married on a chosen date. Leaving the Tang mansion, we boarded the carriage back to the palace. Xiao lay on the soft couch and laughed. The little cat I picked up has grown up, and now she knows how to hurt people. I pouted, unconvinced. It was I who had leaked the news that the Crown Prince would be visiting the Tang mansion. It was I who had found a way to call those young masters over for the confrontation. The Tang family could never hide this matter. I had fanned the flames, intentionally pushing for this outcome. Can you tell brother why you did this? I rested my chin in my hand, kneeling in front of the couch, picking up a candied fruit and popping it into my mouth. What else? I am just kind-hearted. I cannot bear to see lovers denied a happy ending. They love each other deeply. With all their hearts and souls, of course I had to make it happen. I knew he was reborn. He could have foreseen all of this. Tangji would drug the wine. He would do something scandalous. He would be condemned by all, subject to endless criticism. Yet he had allowed Tangji's scheme to unfold. In his heart, he must have wanted to marry her all along. In my past life, this very incident had made Tang Mu hate me to the bone. Now, reborn, I had fanned the flames. I wanted to see for myself. If the wife Tang Mu had longed for so desperately was truly a worthy match. Lost in thought, Xiao reached out and tugged at my nose. I snapped back to reality. Before me was his jade-like face, smiling softly. You're still so young, do you even know what love is? I looked up at him, feigning solemnity. A little more than brother does. Xiao chuckled, flicking my forehead with his finger, quibbling. The carriage swayed along the bluestone road. He reclined lazily, looking at me with an amused smile. You caused such a commotion at the Tang mansion today, all just because you're kind-hearted. I continued eating the candied fruit, my voice sweet and sticky. Exactly. I can't bear to see lovers torn apart. Doesn't brother think their passionate love is touching? Xue Xiao's piercing gaze, which saw straight into people's hearts, fell on my face. He did not press further, only reaching out to tuck a stray lock of hair from my forehead behind my ear. If this is what you want, I will make it happen for you. However, Xue Xiao raised an eyebrow. Your courage is growing bolder and bolder. There are boundaries between men and women. Do not be curious about what you ought not see. I hid both hands behind my back, blinking innocently. I didn't. Xue Xiao looked at me, then sighed softly. Little Yua, you're only 15. You still know nothing of love. I rested my chin in my hand, tilting my head to look at him. Then Crown Prince brother knows, doesn't he? He paused, his lips curving into a half smile. Of course I do. Then teach me, brother. I leaned closer to him. What is love? Xue Xiao stared at me, his fingertips brushing the wine cup slowly. His voice was low, sinking into the depths of the night. Love is wanting to protect her for a lifetime of peace. Love is not tolerating a single slight against her from anyone else. Love is covering for her, even when she wants to hurt someone, and making everything right for her. Silence fell over the carriage in an instant. My heart felt as if someone had squeezed it tight for a moment. Xue Xiao smiled casually. But you're still young, it's only natural that you don't understand. No hurry, I'll teach you slowly. I bit down on the candied fruit, my heart pounding wildly. He reached out again and poked my nose. Go back and rest early. Stop getting into trouble, little cat. His tone was lazy and doting, yet I knew clearly. This crown prince would pry open all the fangs of fate with his own hands, just for me, even if it meant his eternal damnation. After the court session, Xue Xiao insisted on taking me to the temple. On a whim, he found an ordinary carriage and was determined to go with me. Mother told me to pray for a peace talisman. Come with me. The carriage jolted all the way toward the outskirts of the city. Halfway there, shouts suddenly rang out outside the carriage. A group of men blocked the road. They were bandits. The thieves brandished their weapons, demanding money and valuables. Xue Xiao sighed softly, ordering the coachman in a cold voice. Yunsheng. The carriage stopped. The unremarkable coachman leaped out in an instant, subduing the bandits in a few swift moves. I lifted my skirt and stepped down from the carriage, only to hear the leader snort coldly and spit on the ground. Damn bad luck. My heart skipped a beat violently. I knew this bandit. I had seen him before, in my past life. When the Tang family met with disaster and Tang Ji hanged herself, father flew into a rage at my ruthless methods, and punished me severely with 50 heavy strokes of the rod. Brother stormed out of the house in anger, and mother sent me to find him. That day, mother grabbed my collar and shouted sharply, "It's all your fault for being stubborn. You killed Ji and drove your brother away. Tang Rui, go bring your brother back, otherwise, you will pay with your life." I dragged my injured body and searched outside for a whole day and night. A high fever overtook me, and I collapsed by the roadside, unable to hold on any longer. When I woke up, several burly men with knives had tied me up and were dragging me roughly across the ground. They shouted, "We hit the jackpot today." Then, an ordinary carriage passed by, and saved me. The coachman wore a straw hat, hiding his face, yet his movements were quick and precise. The wound on my back throbbed painfully. The master of the carriage tossed down a jar of ointment. The coachman fed a life-saving pill into my mouth, whispering, "Miss, my master says to tell you, live well." I was delirious with fever, unable to see the master's face clearly. I only remembered, I turned back instinctively. Everything was exactly as it had been in my past life. The black jade archer ring on Xue Xiao's hand, the ordinary carriage, the coachman with the straw hat, and, the same time, the same place. So that was it. So in my past life, I and this crown prince Xue Xiao had once had such a fateful encounter. I let out a bitter laugh. In both lives, I owed him far too much, more than I could ever repay. I stared at Xue Xiao in the carriage. His eyes closed in rest. The coachman spoke respectfully. "Your Highness, what shall we do with them?" He opened his lips slowly, his voice cold and sharp. "Kill them." My heart was calm, no ripples at all. In my past life, I had barely escaped with my life. The next day, I had raided the bandits' den and wiped them out. These men were nothing but small fry. Their stronghold had burned and plundered neighboring villages, and even trafficked innocent young girls. They deserved to die. Thinking carefully. All these years, Xianxia had seemingly killed innocent people without mercy. Yet in truth, every person he had killed had been guilty of heinous crimes and deserved their fate. As for those beautiful women who had been sent to his mansion, they were all innocent girls who had been forced into prostitution. Xianxia had secretly sent them to the southern border overnight, faking their deaths to fool the world. Why would he bear such a notorious reputation, becoming a villain feared by all? I lifted my skirt and rushed into the carriage without hesitation, throwing myself into Xiaoxiao's arms. His eyes fluttered open slightly, and he caught me naturally, holding me tight in his arms, his voice gentle. "What's wrong? Are you scared?" I shook my head, hugging him tightly. Heaven let me be reborn. Surely for this very moment, for me to save him. Tang Mu's wedding day was set for the 8th day of the 4th lunar month, an auspicious day. I did not go to the ceremony. He had married the woman he loved, and naturally, he did not wish to see me again. Tangji had secretly bought more than a dozen oil barrels and smuggled them into the mansion by water. On the night the wedding rites were completed, more than 30 members of the Tang clan, all perished in the raging fire. Tang Ji had ignited the gunpowder barrels, and fled in the chaos, only to be caught by me on the spot. I ordered my men to take her to the Dali temple. Only Tang Mu had a narrow escape. He had gotten drunk and fallen asleep in a pavilion, and was rescued by government officials, an expected ending. No matter how many times I had warned him in my past life, Tang Mu had never believed me. He had only believed that Tang Ji loved him, that she was willing to let go of her hatred for him. I saw Tang Mu again on the bustling street. The bride had set the fire, and more than 30 members of the Duke of Zhen's mansion had burned to death. The emperor was furious. Upon investigation, it was discovered that Tang Ji was actually the orphan of young Xianling, a convicted minister from 7 years prior. The case of the Yang family's downfall had been personally tried by my father. By the emperor's order, she had hated the Tang family to the bone, hiding her identity for many years. For no other reason than to repay blood with blood, Tang Ji was sentenced to be beheaded in the autumn. Tang Mu was a broken man, stumbling down the street like a walking corpse. I drove the carriage and blocked his way. He looked up blankly, murmuring to himself, "I was wrong, Rui. I should never have brought Tang Ji home, Rui. I killed father and mother, and I also killed you." I lowered my eyes, pretending not to know him, and said in a cold voice, "Master Tang, what are you talking about? Who is Rui?" He followed me all the way to the Crown Prince's mansion, until Xianxia walked out to welcome me home. Tang Mu suddenly snatched a sword from the guard at the gate. Shouting sharply, "Your Highness the Crown Prince, please treat Rui well." A flash of blood, Tang Mu fell to the ground. He had committed suicide at the gate of the Crown Prince's mansion. A storm raged in my heart. Xianxia rushed over, covering my eyes with his hands, holding my ice-cold hand, shielding me. "Don't be scared. Don't be scared, I'm here." I was so frightened that I fell gravely ill with a high fever. Xianxia stopped attending the early court sessions, staying by my bed every day, feeding me medicine and wiping my sweat. I called his name in my dreams. He held my hand tightly, whispering, I'm here. I'm not leaving you." The Empress sent a female official to inquire about my condition. Xianxia flew into a rage, smashing a screen to pieces, and shouted sharply, "Go tell your mistress. I have no idea why Tang Mu killed himself at my gate. If the Dali temple wants to hold someone accountable, let them. Say I killed him. I have killed countless people. What's one more?" I clutched his hand tightly, tears streaming down my face in my sleep. The female official said expressionlessly, "Your Highness, Her Majesty summons you to the palace." Xianxia turned to the female official, his voice like thunder, "Get lost." When I woke up, Xianxia was leaning over my bed, his eyes filled with overwhelming joy. "You're awake." I had been unconscious for 7 days and 7 nights. Xianxia had tried every means possible to pull me back from the brink of the nightmare the ghost physician had spoken of. The ghost physician said, "You were so close, so close." He pulled me into his arms, sobbing uncontrollably. "I thought I would never see you again." I nestled in his arms, my voice soft. "Xiao, do you know who I really am?" "I know," he said firmly. "The second young lady of the Tang family, who was said to be stillborn. I have known all along, you are. No matter who you are, I will never let you leave me." I closed my eyes, choking up. Okay, the crown prince refused to leave the mansion or attend court for a woman. All the officials submitted memorials impeaching him. The emperor was frantic with worry. In the early court session, the emperor spat out a mouthful of black blood and collapsed in the palace hall. The empress hurried to attend to him. That night, the emperor passed away. To stabilize the court, the crown prince ascended the throne as emperor at once. With the imperial title in his hand, the winds and clouds of the world shifted in an instant. Everything was far too smooth. On the day of the ascension ceremony, I disguised myself as a man and followed closely behind Xiao. As the crown was about to be placed on his head, the Empress Dowager snatched it away, her eyes wild with madness. "I have an imperial edict." The late emperor named my son Xueliang as his heir. Ministers of the Empress Dowager's faction immediately raised a commotion. All the officials demanded that Xuexiao abdicate the throne. Xueliang was only 8 years old now. Xuexiao looked at his mother, his face filled with confusion. "Why?" The Empress Dowager pointed at him, shouting sharply, "You are unworthy. I only want you dead." She pulled a pearl hairpin from her hair and raised her hand, stabbing it straight at Xuexiao's chest. In the blink of an eye, I darted to Xuexiao's side. Snatching the hairpin from her hand, and kicking the Empress Dowager to the ground with one foot, an uproar erupted in the palace. The Empress Dowager waved her hand, and the imperial guards swarmed in. She shouted coldly, "Seize them!" My eyes turned cold, and the wrist crossbow hidden in my sleeve flashed. One step, one strike, slitting throats, felling enemies, moving with quick, agile steps. Countless assailants fell behind me. I leaped back to Xuexiao's side in an instant, my eyes cold as ice. "Who dares to hurt him? You're asking for death." An uproar erupted in the hall, the ministers staring in stunned silence. No one had expected that by Xuexiao's side lay a peerless martial artist, one who could take on 100 men alone. Xuexiao wiped the tears from his eyes. Drawing a long sword from the ground, the tip of the sword pointed straight at the Empress Dowager, his voice cold and resolute. "Mother, I have obeyed you in all things, only out of respect for you as my mother. Why must you seek to kill me?" The Empress Dowager's face paled in an instant, a sob catching in her throat. I slowly removed my veiled hat, my long hair cascading down like a waterfall. My gaze swept over the Empress Dowager. "Because she is not your real mother, Xuexiao. You are the son of the late noble consort. Back then, your father loved your mother deeply, yet he had no choice but to make the legitimate daughter his empress. To secure your position as crown prince, he swapped you with Xueyu." My words fell heavy and clear, each syllable sharp as a pearl. "Xueyu was the Empress Dowager's real daughter. She died because of you. That is why the Empress Dowager hates you to the bone." Xuexiao stepped back, his eyes filled with despair and shock. I pointed directly at the Empress Dowager, continuing to reveal the earth-shattering secret. It was her. It was the Empress Dowager who poisoned the late emperor with a slow-acting toxin and killed him. Madness blazed in the Empress Dowager's eyes, her voice shrill and piercing. "What do you know? I was trapped in the harem for him, enduring countless concubines by his side, yet his heart was entirely with my sister. What makes me inferior to that bastard? A concubine's daughter born to a lowly maid, yet she dared to call herself my sister." Her face contorted, all reason lost to her. "Xuexiao, he went to great lengths to let you inherit the throne, choosing to die rather than issue a new edict. Even though you have committed all manner of evils, killed countless people, he still raised you to the highest position. Why? Why?" I stood in front of Xuexiao, my voice cold and stern. "Xuexiao has never committed any evil deeds. Every person he killed deserved their fate." A flicker of emotion crossed Xuexiao's eyes. I continued, "You merely took advantage of Xuexiao's affection for you. He is a master of strategy, planning every step carefully. Do you think he did not know you would try to harm him today? He was only gambling. Gambling that the mother who raised him still cared for him a little." that she would not truly raise a hand against him. In my past life, he had been consumed by despair. Though his martial arts were unparalleled, he had let the Empress Dowager strike him down without resistance. I turned to look at Xiao, my tone firm. After more than 10 years of mother and son bond, you have done enough. Xueyu's death was not your fault. Xiao, pull yourself together. Xiao's expression steadied. He stepped forward slowly, walking step by step to the Empress Dowager, and ordered in a cold voice, "Guards, send the Empress Dowager to the imperial mausoleum. She shall never leave for the rest of her life." In the end, Xiao voluntarily abdicated the throne, passing it to Xue Liang. The auxiliary ministers and the prince regent were all Xiao's close confidants, tasked with assisting the new emperor. From then on, the court was in perfect order, and peace reigned over the land. He took me to travel the 4 corners of the world, turning his back on the affairs of the court, cherishing only our little world of 2. We wandered through famous mountains and great rivers, witnessed peach blossoms blooming over endless hills and snow falling on ancient temples, saw the water towns of the Jiangnan and the faint glow of lanterns in the night. Years later, on a quiet night, the moonlight flowing like water, he held my hand gently and asked in a low voice, "How could you foresee so many things? Your martial prowess back then was not that of a teenage girl." I smiled, leaning into his arms, my eyes soft and tender. "Perhaps it was the fate of our past life that brought us together again in this one. You saved me in the last life. In this life, heaven sent me to protect you and to let me live without regret." His warm hand stroked my hair gently, and he lowered his head to kiss my lips. "Then you can never escape from me in this life." I chuckled, my heart filled with peace. "I will not run. In this life, I only wish to stay by your side forever." From then on, the hatred and grudges of the past life faded away with the wind. Through wind and frost, rain and snow, we walked hand in hand, our remaining years quiet and peaceful. Beyond the palace walls lay our world. We accompanied each other from dawn to dusk, the years passing in silent bliss, with him by my side. I held the whole world in my heart.